right now.
That's crazy. Crazy talk. Here we go.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual co-host and do not reflect the official policy or position of the Firearms Radio Network and or their employers. Viewer discretion is advised. This is especially true on our live shows.
Broadcast for shooters, hunters, and gun enthusiasts. This is the Firearms Radio Network. The bandwidth for this episode of This Week in Guns is sponsored by Patriot Patch Company. PatriotPatch.co.
Welcome to This Week in Guns. This show is brought to you by the Firearms Radio Network and Patriot Patch Company.
And the show offers commentary on the latest firearms industry news, information, and buzz. I'm your host, Sean Heron. As always, I get the privilege of introducing our panelists tonight. First up, returning is our good friend and yours, host of the Second is for Everyone Diversity Shoot, Second Amendment advocate, co-host of the Gun and Gear podcast, firearms trainer, and owner of Simon Says Train, Tony Simon. How are you?
Yay! Oh, no clapping. Okay, I'm great, man. Thanks for inviting me back.
We could do some clapping. I got all the things here. Yeah.
There you go. All the things.
All the things. Next up is our favorite frickin' frack. We got the YouTubers from Black Diamond Guns and Gear and Black Diamond Holsters. Please welcome Josh Courtney and Josh Hutchinson. I'm going to do the applause.
Hey, we get applause.
Every time I use sound effects on this show, I get hate mail. So I did that just for you guys. So, bring it on.
That's my favorite part. So
we get hate mail all the time.
Yeah, we do get hate mail a lot. That's fun.
I know I'm going to get it. But before we get started, go check out the Patriot Patch Company. I'm wearing this shirt. It says, I want you for the Space Force or for U.S. Space Force. It is awesome. It is a, like a crazy astronaut space fighter, Uncle Sam, which is pretty awesome. Also, Winter Warfare, which we were kind of seeing throughout the United States. This is the Patriot Patch Club Patch of the Month. Go check that out. And that's all at patriotpatch.co. Guys, in Virginia, a lot of things going on. There's a couple stories from Virginia. But the first story is Virginia senator openly carries her revolver while presenting bills in committee. Let's see. So in this committee, she says that unfortunately in the General Assembly, we see the good, we see the bad, we see it all. And there you have the facts of life.
The facts of life.
Exactly. It's just for personal safety. Quite honestly, she has it in a custom Kydex holster on her hip, wearing it about, 4:30, 5 o'clock. And not great retention there, but they do have permitted concealed carry and legal open carry. And I think that's pretty great. So you know what? She has it for personal safety. She has it for self-defense. Those are the right reasons to do it. I fully support doing it. I fully support doing it wherever and whenever she needs to do it. Tony, what do you think?
I think she's grandstanding a little bit, but I don't care. Nothing's happening in Chesterfield other than they continually pulled me over. That's where she's a representative from, Chesterfield, Virginia. And they continually pull me over for speeding there, and everybody gets pulled. That's their money maker. Oh, anyway, nice. Good for her. I think it's awesome. Yes, I'm from Virginia, so I do know this. I have to drive through Chesterfield every time I go home.
Have you considered not speeding?
Listen, if we're going to start doing things that make sense, I'm going to stop being a Second Amendment advocate in New Jersey.
Right. No, keep speeding and keep doing what you do out there.
Yeah, and she has it in a horrible location because I'm looking at it going, how do you grab that?
Yeah.
It's over her, almost over her rear pocket.
Yeah.
It's canted the wrong way.
I did have a lady come through a class not too long ago, actually, that drew across the back. So she basically had a left-handed holster. She was wearing it at about 7:30, 8 o'clock. She was right-handed, and she would reach across her back and draw. And I was like, okay, that's great. If that's how you want to do it. However, in this class, you are not going to do that because there's no.
You're telling me that she's doing it behind the back?
Behind the back cross draw.
Behind the back. What the fuck? That's weird.
Yeah, it was pretty. It was pretty nuts, man. So Josh's, Crotches. What do you guys think about this?
Man, all I gotta say is fucking A right, doggy.
What? First off, this weekend guns. Let's watch that potty.
Oh man,
Sorry, Kenny.
Ken's like great.
Yeah,
but that good for her, man.
Yeah, no, I agree. Good for her. She's awesome.
At least we don't have. That's one less pussy we have standing up there.
Sorry, Kenny.
Strike
trying
three.
to take a right away.
Is it just my face? Does it like bring it out of you?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, good. No, and you're right. She's doing it the right way. And look, I honestly, I don't care what her politics are one way or the other. She's exercising her rights. She's exercising her right to open carry. She's exercising her right to the Second Amendment and self-defense. I'm all in.
I'm good with it.
Same.
You know, the funny part, I'll throw this right out. It shows the difference between Southern Virginia and Northern Virginia. She's a Southern Virginia politician.
There you go.
Totally different attitude.
And I'll tell you this, we're going to talk about Northern Virginia here in 1 second. But before we do that, let's talk about my new money-making opportunity coming out of New Orleans. So this is New Orleans makes gun buybacks profitable for sellers. Pretty great. LaToya Cantrell, she is the politician there, and she basically said that they're going to do a gun buyback program, and they're going to pay $500 for any gun in working order. No questions asked. I think that's great. Josh's, what do you guys think?
I think that we should round up a bunch of high points and Phoenix 22s and just take a trip down to Louisiana and get some, $50,000.
Does this count for those like pipe guns that the one guy was making?
Unclear at this point. It just says that it has to be operational. I'm not sure how they check that exactly, but man, this is great money right here.
Yeah, that's legit. Yeah.
I mean, go and just take anything that is, that's considered a gun and just take it down there. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I should have bought like 5,000 of those Nagant rifles when they were $99.
I know. You and me both. Tony, what do you think?
I think it's awesome. I think don't trust them because Baltimore did the same thing. If you remember correctly, they were given $25 per magazine over 10 rounds. And then they limited to Baltimore residents. And then they throw this provision in. Once the gun comes in, it can't leave with you. So beware of that. Yeah. Baltimore did that. So, but yeah, go get paid, dude. I think it's High Point road trip time.
Yeah,
okay. I am not selling my high points. This high point is worth more than $500. Get out of here right now.
Yeah, that one is the only one that it could be right now.
No, I mean, the optics worth more than 500.
Yeah.
Internet hate alone makes this worth more than $500.
That is what I'm talking about. So yeah, thank you, LaToya.
To get the number of hits I get with this high point, I'd have to be a gun bunny.
Oh, I love it. All right, next one. Texas woman arrested for fatal Snapchat photo. I don't know if this was on her Gun Bunny Snapchat Premium or not, but she was posing for a Snapchat photo when her gun went off, killing her boyfriend or fiance, whatever it happened to be. I will say at the very, very bottom of the article, it said that they recovered a phone from the scene, which contained a video showing the couple arguing minutes before the shooting. But her story is we were posing for a Snapchat photo and it went off. And I say, I don't even know what to say. Tony?
I call BS.
Yes.
If you look at her phone, she probably has Googled all kinds of how to make a shooting look like an accident.
Mm-hmm.
And a bunch of stuff from ID channel. Yeah. No, she's using that as defense. That was she meant that to happen.
Yeah, I completely 100% agree. Josh's, what do you think?
So it was a bolt action rifle, right?
Yeah, probably.
I mean, is she the new modern day Lee Harvey Oswald or something like that? You know, I mean, I hate to say it that way, but I mean,
well, the thing is though, if she was pointing it at the dude while he was taking a picture of her, that's her own fucking fault.
Was she in the next neighborhood?
Yeah, I don't even know, man. It's kind of an interesting story. I suspect that she will end up being prosecuted for homicide, but that's just my guess.
Yeah.
We will see.
Own fault.
Yeah.
Own stupidity. But this is what makes gun owners look retarded. Stuff like this.
It truly is.
Even if she's not like a legitimate gun owner or whatever, whatever the case may be, or if she is, it just makes gun owners look retarded, and that's not cool. So,
I agree with you, and I kind of take issue with that. Actually, I'm like, she doesn't represent me as a gun owner. She is a person who owns a gun. She doesn't represent me any more than the drunk driver represents a car owner or something like that. It's someone doing something stupid with something that they shouldn't be doing something stupid with. And
the problem is, literally everybody else will think that. And
I know
that's what the shitty part is.
I think that's unfair. Tony, what do you think?
I think she doesn't represent me at all. I'm not even sure if she's a gun owner. She was just pointing a gun that was in the house at him. But we'll get painted with that broad brush anyway. But she's pretty much just somebody that wanted to kill her boyfriend and use the firearms and as an excuse to do it. Now my question is this: hey, bro, you fighting with your girlfriend? Why'd you give her a gun?
Yeah.
This is true. This is true.
When you started playing with it, why didn't you leave? Or, something like that. Anything like that. Yeah, so that's one side of the spectrum. On the exact opposite side of the spectrum, I know you guys heard about this. It was pretty popular. It's a little bit of an older story, but I don't think we talked about it too much on this show. There was an attack in Kenya. I think 4 terrorists basically went into a hotel, started killing people. British SAS guy was kind of like out shopping for some stuff, heard the call come in on the radio, threw on his plate carrier over his jeans and flannel, grabbed his rifle, put his mask on, and went in and tore stuff up. He basically was a one-man wrecking crew. He went in, he eliminated the terrorists, the assailants, if you will, and rescued a bunch of different people. He coordinated local police forces and things like that, but didn't really have them as backup, didn't use them as backup because it probably would have been more dangerous for him, and kind of eliminated that threat and took care of that stuff. And in the meantime, probably saved a ton of lives. Tony, what do you think?
I think it was awesome what he did, but so many people are trying to co-sign on to it like, hey, that would be me too. No, this was a British SAS elite trooper. This was not you with your Anderson arms lower and your palmetto
Mr.
state
Operator.
and I'm not even saying they don't, because I mean, that stuff will work too. But no, this was not every man. This was the elite of the elite doing something awesome. And we rarely get to see these guys put in the work. I think the last time was at like Princess Gate, where it was open to the public when the SAS took over the embassy again. So this was just really awesome seeing what good guys with guns can do.
Yeah, totally agree. In fact, someone mentioned that there's a really good book about the SAS called Bravo 02, I think. I started reading it, and so far I'm just really, really engaged. Josh, what do you guys think?
I seen a meme the other day. It said, I can't remember who it was by, but it said, I will file this under reasons why I need to have an AK-47 and a 30-round magazine. Same thing. This is what I would file that under. I think it was Mr. Guns and Gear that put that up, actually.
But in saying this is the reason this guy is SAS.
Mm-hmm.
Situations like this, and Tony, I completely agree with what you said. I mean, we would all like to say, in this certain situation, I would be in there and I'd be throwing rounds down range when probably I'd be, dropping a deuce in my pants.
Yep,
but that is a true definition of a hero, man. Right there. I mean, seriously. So I give it up to him, and I think it's awesome what he did, and really cool.
Very, very cool. I totally 100% agree. On a little bit of a sadder note, or I guess a happy sad note, Chinese Virginia Tech student arrested on gun charges. His charges dropped after being in custody for 8 months. This comes to us from AMOland. And Yung Song Zhao, he was, thank you. He was here on a student visa, and he bought an AR-15. And there's some obscure law that doesn't allow people who are not residents to load a 30-round magazine into it. So he goes to the range. He's shooting rounds. He swaps out a 20-round mag for another 20-round mag. There's an officer there. He observes this happen, says it's a 30-round mag, can't record it because his cell phone battery died at that exact minute. Takes this kid into custody, and then it becomes, a ton of drama. He spends 8 or 9 months in custody. Eventually, his visa is revoked because he's no longer a student. He's an inmate at this point. He remains in custody for quite a while, then leaves the United States October of 2018, comes back for this, and gets acquitted on the entire thing. The judge said, this is all weak. There's no good evidence. It is so shaky that I can't even allow it to go to trial. And it is kind of interesting. So there was also, he was actually picked up on a knife charge as well. He had a knife, and I don't know. This is an interesting one. Tony, why don't you break it down for us?
I was actually on this very show when this arrest happened.
Yeah, I remember.
We were talking about it. This is bullcrap.
Mm-hmm.
and this is the reason I tell people red flag laws are bad, because stuff like this can happen to the everyday citizen. And this happened to this guy, and it can happen to you too. Now, the backstory is his friends thought he was weird. He comes from a well-to-do family in China. He got to America and was just doing his best being an American. He bought a Corvette. He like hooked up with a bunch of chicks. He got a gun. He did all the stuff any of us would do as we had the loot to do it. And his friends started turning him in. And all of a sudden he gets busted by a cop who somehow had his battery die. Meanwhile, this guy had videotape from his friends videotaping him there.
Mhm.
That should have taken care of that right there that day on the spot. This was bullcrap. And I'm saying that I'm glad he's off, but they threw him out of the country based on this.
Yeah, I mean, he lost his student, or he was no longer a student, so he lost his student visa. And even when he was released, he wasn't even released and freed. He was sent to immigration, basically, I believe, because he's not in the U.S. legally because his visa has expired. Josh, thoughts?
That's exact. I agree with Tony 100%. I can't believe that this is the kind of thing that red flag laws lead to. I mean, and not only that. Okay, so in the story, wasn't he buying the firearm, or he bought the firearm from somebody, and the police saw him buy it or something, right?
So, yeah, something like that. I'm not sure exactly how it
But
was.
how did that policeman know that he wasn't a citizen and he was just a student on a student visa?
Unknown at this point, and I'm not 100% sure it's clear. It says undercover officer followed him to the range. Let's see. Let me read this.
Looking for shit? That's my point. Like, is he just looking for it? Like,
yeah.
What's this guy doing?
Zhao had been charged with an obscure law making it illegal for a non-citizen to put a magazine which holds more than 20 rounds into a semi-auto rifle. He had legally purchased the rifle, which originally had 30-round magazines with it. Because he had researched the law, he knew he could not legally put the magazines in the rifle. He traded them for a sling and purchased 20-round magazines. He was arrested after firing the rifle at a range. Fortunately, a friend had videotaped him. The video showed him changing the magazine after 20 rounds. Undercover officer followed him to the range. Officer claimed he saw a 30-round magazine in the rifle, and that resulted in the arrest. So
just like a red flag law, they took his word and arrested him and did due process later. It
just seems like a really terrible sting is what it seems like to me. I don't even know.
It's just the thing is that guy, the student knew his rights and he knew what he was supposed to do, and he did them. He actually followed the rules, did him to what he was supposed to do, and he still got charged with something, which is bullshit.
Yeah.
That's why I try to tell you guys, even knowing the law can get you hemmed up. And okay, so he's not arrested anymore, but his college future's gone. He's been thrown out of the country. He can. I don't know what would happen to him now if he tries to get another student visa and come back. You know what I mean? So who knows what his whole future was changed because of this BS.
Because one guy's opinion of what he thought he saw.
And I could be wrong in this, right? Would that not even be considered? He may be facing felony gun charges.
He's been fully acquitted now, but yeah, I mean, he was definitely in trouble. That's for sure.
Wouldn't it like up to 10 years or something like that? What he was facing?
Let's see. I believe so. Yeah.
That's terrible.
All because of what somebody said.
But he was arrested. What was it? The name of the town is Christiansburg.
Yeah.
I just find it funny because I heard a comedian talking about Virginia once, and he was like, "Yeah, I was going to do a gig in Lynchburg, Virginia," and I was like, "Wait a minute." Yeah. So I mean, I guess Christiansburg is like a step up from Lynchburg, but it might not bode well for you if your name is Ling Dong Cheng or whatever his name was.
Yep.
But I think this was something more than what we're being told. I think he probably was targeted because, like I said, the backstory was his friends were saying weird stuff about him, mainly because he wasn't falling into their little square opinion of what a Chinese guy going to college in America should be doing.
Yeah. Well, not only that, the Virginia shooting that happened there, right? That happened with a Chinese dude.
Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
Virginia Tech. I thought it was Korean, but whatever. But yeah, you throw that all on top of each other, and you have a guy whose rights were taken away and was tossed out of the country and served time in jail for no reason.
Yeah, totally agree. This next one's a tough one. St. Louis officer charged in the Russian roulette death of a fellow officer. So there's 3 officers at a house hanging out, chilling. One of them decides to take out a revolver, takes all the rounds out, puts 1 round in, spins the cylinder, points it at another officer, pulls the trigger, nothing happens, hands it to the other officer. At this point, the 3rd officer said, what are you guys doing? Reprimands him, said he's leaving, walks out the front door. The next officer points it at the other officer. spins the cylinder, pulls the trigger, nothing happens. Gives it back to the first person, who again spins the cylinder, pulls the trigger, and round goes off. Officer is shot, and let's see. Yeah, these are officers, not deputies. So round goes off, cop dies, Catlin Alex dies, off duty, shot in the chest around 1 a.m. The third officer who had left hears the gunshot, comes back in, and just like what a load of stupidity. I mean, these are police officers. I would hold them to a little bit of a higher standard, but this is just dumb. Tony?
I think there's way more to this story. This lady's married, and she's at another dude's house at 1 a.m. The two cops are on duty, but somehow they're at his house with her. If these guys weren't cops, I'm trying to turn it off because the story just decided to run on my computer. But if these guys weren't cops, they'd be a lot more shade thrown on this.
Yeah.
But because of their profession, everybody's going, oh, this is just stupid. I'm thinking it's more than stupid. I'm thinking maybe something ended that somebody didn't want ended. Because understand, they didn't even get playing the game of Russian roulette right. You don't point the gun at other people. You point it at yourself.
Right, yeah.
At least in the movies I watch.
That's a good point.
When we started reading this article, I was like, so wait a minute. They're playing Russian roulette. So is he in trouble for her killing herself? I don't see how that's going to work. And then we finished reading it, and I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, no, he's going to be charged. That's
yeah.
And he should be.
I'm like Tony. I think that there's definitely a backstory here that we don't know, and we probably never will know.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, that's been heavily suspected, I think, on the internet and across the internet. I don't know. It's just, hopefully there is some more to the story, because otherwise it's just plain blatant idiocracy.
Again, people are going to look at it like gun owners, because they wrap them into the police and stuff like that, and everything. So,
yep,
I think they're going to look at it the same way.
Yep, I agree. North Carolina nurse helps trooper that was shot in the face. Trooper pulls over a car suspected for some stuff. There's 3 individuals inside. He does a little bit of information gathering on the vehicle occupants. One of the guys says he's not going back to jail, shoots the trooper in the face at least twice. Trooper runs back to his car, starts chasing him. They turn around, head-on collision with the trooper. One guy surrenders there. The other 2 take off. This nurse with her 1-year-old child is driving along, sees the lights, sees some smoke, gets over, decides she's going to stop and see what's going on, gets over to the trooper. Trooper says, I'm hit. And she and another bystander start rendering aid to the trooper on the side of the road, in kind of a crazy situation. This is just, it's good people doing good things. Her brother had actually been, the nurse's brother had actually been murdered. And she said that the person who murdered her brother left him to bleed out on the street, and that she couldn't do that. Josh's, what do you think?
I think that this is a person that is just doing what they were trained to do right off the bat, not even thinking about it. And yes, that probably did have some effect with her having, her brother did the same thing or whatever. But I would say more or less, this is somebody trying to do what they were supposed to do, and she just jumped at it. And, it probably did have some effect to her later on. But I would say that this is just straight up, just like the soldier. I mean, it's just straight up heroism and just jumping into action when you needed to be there.
Yeah. On another note, though, the guy said that he wasn't wanting to go back to jail or whatever. Mm-hmm. Why was he out on bond? I mean, that's a completely different story. But why are these people on the streets?
Yeah.
It's this dance that we play in the criminal justice system, right? It's like, the jails the prisons are overpopulated. Actually, you know what, Tony, you've got a good insight into this. Why don't you share your thoughts?
One, this lady's a hero. What she did was awesome. Just stepping in for anyone, much less stepping in between something. Of course, you have a criminal armed and a state trooper, and you got in the middle of that and rendered aid. As far as the system, the way it's set up, hey, listen, you should be able to get out on bond. You should be able to do that because if you're innocent, you still have to earn money to pay for your lawyer. Mm-hmm. So I can't paint everybody with that brush of you're guilty if you ever got arrested, because I know that's not true. But she's an awesome human being, and kudos go out to her and anybody else, because no one's naming the other person, and maybe by choice that person doesn't want to be named. But there was somebody that sounds like wasn't even a trained first responder, stopped and assisted also. And I think that's just great. And people like that need to be held up as examples of what awesome human beings do.
Totally, completely agree. Next story, foster parents sue Missouri claiming that rules prevent them from protecting themselves while they are foster parents. So Missouri has the foster care system has some very interesting rules about firearms and things like that. Those include storing firearms and ammunition separately, keeping firearms locked in areas inaccessible to children, and keeping firearms in a locked area in any vehicle transporting a foster child. They say that it basically creates a huge restriction or impedance on them using or carrying loaded functional firearms. They're suing the state. If they lose, I'm sure and positive that this will go to their circuit courts and possibly maybe even someday to the Supreme Court, just depending on how all these things happen. Tony?
I hope this goes all the way to Supreme Court and the Supreme Court kills this craziness, because you have administrators and child protective services making up gun laws. Because if I have my own biological kid, I can have an AK-47 hanging on the wall in the den loaded. But if I'm taking care of other people's children, now this is a foster care system. So some of these people's parents or relatives might be bad to people that might come looking for little Johnny or whatever. How do you defend these children and your family against people if you have to have your guns locked up as if you're in Australia and you ammo here, gun here? And again, this is based on an administrator that works for Child Protective Services, has no expertise whatsoever in firearms. It's ridiculous. And I hope it gets killed across the country, because that's not fair to anyone.
Yep. Josh and Josh?
I completely agree. I think that this needs to be thrown out, hands down. I mean, you have the right. Your Second Amendment is your right to, take care of your life, hands down. Whether you're in custody of your own child or a foster child, you may be taking care of that foster child's life. Why should you have to? I shouldn't have to go play tag in my house trying to get ammo here, rifle here, scope here. Hey, hold on a minute. Oh, whatever. That's completely asinine in my own opinion.
I have family members in our family that did foster kids, ones that did foster kids and actually ended up adopting kids. And me and my wife, we don't have kids as of yet. And at one point we were thinking about doing that too. But I started thinking about it and listening to all the stuff that her family members had to go through in order to, they had to go through these classes, which classes aren't a big deal, but you learn about what happens in these classes, which are the things that tell you about the firearms, that you have to have them locked up, put them separate from ammo, all this sort of stuff. You have to have them in a safe, which you should have them in a safe, but you shouldn't have to keep them separately, and you should be able to keep them on you at all times. I think it's just ridiculous, and I too hope it gets thrown out everywhere.
Yeah. And I do want to say, I understand why the organization wants to put these rules in place. I don't agree with them at all. I understand why they do it. I understand that sometimes people are responsible, and this law, these rules, these regulations probably exist because someone did something stupid. So I understand why they would want to do it, but they've gone too far. It's overreach. They've made it impossible to protect their life. And, that kind of stuff needs to go away. I don't not understand the sentiment. I just really, really profoundly disagree with the execution of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll see where that one goes. Again, it's still just, it's a federal lawsuit. So we'll see what happens, and definitely keep an eye on that. Concealed carrier. This is probably why that law exists. Concealed carrier faces charges after negligently shooting himself in a restaurant. Goes to the Outback Steakhouse and goes to sit down at a table. He's got a gun tucked in his waistband, no holster. And as he's adjusting whatever and sitting down, shoots himself in the leg. He is going to be charged, and he's going to have to go through the court system, and just ridiculous. So, I mean, clearly Josh, you guys make holsters. This is the kind of story I never, ever want to see again. This is just so stupid. I wouldn't even pocket carry a gun without a holster personally. Josh's, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that when I was reading this, I was like, oh God, please tell me it was one of those freaking slide things that you put the screw into on your slide.
Yeah, the
draw or whatever it is. I was like, I know that's what this is. And no, he was just being retarded and just didn't have anything at all. it's another one of those things where people are going to look at gun owners as stupidity, and it's just these people that do this. And I think he was like a 65-year-old man or something like that, right? But still, it doesn't. Yeah, so it doesn't negate the fact that he shouldn't have been carrying without a holster or without something with retention, and also something that's going to cover your trigger guard. It's asinine.
I would have rather him carried a Uncle Mike's holster, to be honest with you.
Anything would have been better.
Anything's better than nothing, and some things are better than anything. So
I know some people that carry with a clip draw, and they have those little and they carry Glocks or whatever, and they have those little things that go inside the trigger guard, like little pop-out things. I think those are stupid too.
Yeah.
Just carry a holster. It's not that big deal. You can get pocket holsters that slide onto your trigger guard, and that's it.
Yep.
And they're attached to paracord, and you just pull them out of your pocket, and they pop off of your freaking trigger guard.
Yep.
So many things you could do if you didn't want to carry a holster on a belt.
Agreed. Tony?
This whole thing comes from a lot of gun owners getting their firearms training from television and television shows. Because
and
if you go back to the early 80s, no, not even YouTube. This guy's in the 60s. He's not watching YouTube for carry advice.
Sure.
He's the result of Rockford Files, Magnum PI, and all those cop shows back in the day when guys would stick their gun in their pants and walk off. It's the stupidest thing ever. No, put your gun in a holster. That's how you carry your gun. And it's very simple. You want the gun to be where you left it at. You don't want something shifting around in your pocket or moving around on your belt waistline.
Even the senator lady had it on a freaking holster.
Exactly. In her her 12 o'clock planted position. But
her
holsters,
trying to be Dean Adams over there.
Yeah.
Holsters, it's a thing.
If it's in a purse, if it's in a pocket, if it's in your pants, the 3 Ps, use an H. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I will say this though. You mentioned Magnum PI, and I'm a big Tom Selleck fan, so
I gotta agree. I like that mustache.
I definitely would carry a pistol in my waist.
Definitely go for a mustache ride on that thing.
I'd carry a pistol in my waistband without a holster.
I mean, I just like Magnum PI. Never mind.
Yeah,
let's continue.
Magnum PI.
It would be.
That got creepy real fast.
Yeah, I don't even know what happened, but I'm sorry.
That's another podcast that went somewhere else that we weren't supposed to go
What
to.
podcast? I've never even heard of such a thing.
I don't know, something to do with swiping right or left or something.
Oh yeah, swiping up and
have
down.
a
podcast. I think these guys should start it, but before we go there, Northern Virginia goes 0-26 in gun control bills. So their governor, Ralph Northam, requested a bunch of gun control bills, and on Friday, news broke that the Virginia Senate Committee on Courts of Justice and the House Militia, Police, and Public Safety Committee heard and voted to defeat 26 out of 26 of these bills that were introduced. Just tons of them. Both committees defeated all of them, giving a huge middle finger to the governor. And gosh, I wish this was getting more publicity, because this is actually coming to us from gunrightswatch.com. I wish this was on CNN or Fox News or MSNBC or Vice. Yeah, just ridiculous. I mean, go look at their flag real quick and then come back and report to me what you see. Tony, what do you think?
I think this is awesome. This is what happens when your representative knows where you stand, where their constituents stand. They didn't have to check it out. It's like, no, and no. And that's why it's very important, because this whole fight is on the state level. All of a sudden, 26 bills popped up in Virginia for no reason. No, this is a setup and is going from state to state. Very important. As firearms owners, we participate on the state level, and this is why.
Totally agree. Josh's.
I 100% agree. I can't believe that. I can't believe that they had that many bills going out. That's nuts to me. And if you sit there and read them all, it's basically like all of the bans that are coming out right now, like the assault weapons bans and all this sort of stuff. It's all that stuff. It's all in there. And
could I say something real quick?
Yeah.
This is the exact same number of bills that was in New Jersey.
Wow.
The exact same number, 26. So I'm telling you, this is an organized attack on our Second Amendment rights.
Oh, without question. And they're better at it than they've ever been before.
I'm glad that somebody had the balls to stand up to it.
I'm happy that they kicked all 26 of them in the teeth.
Yeah. I do want to actually go back real quick. I forgot to mention, I think, that on the, on the foster care, the Second Amendment Foundation had teamed up with those with those foster parents and helped file that suit. So I wanted to give credit to the Second Amendment Foundation.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Give credit where it's due. Next,
You mean Second Amendment groups that actually lodge that fight for your rights? Imagine
honestly, Second Amendment Foundation, there's definitely been missteps, but when you look at their list of things that they have accomplished and done, which I have recently done, and eaten a little bit of crow, they're super effective, and they publish it directly on their website for anyone to go look at, and there's a lot of it. So, the Second Amendment Foundation, keep up the good work there. Minnesota teen Victoria Center challenged to pose with her shotgun in the yearbook. This comes to us again, northern Minnesota. This is an interesting thing. The 7th largest high school sport in the state is trap shooting. And this is from a really small town. And they have policies that say that, firearms can be in team photos and trap shooting photos in the yearbook and things like that, but not in individual photos. But this has kind of come up that this is it's a sport. It is something that these student athletes are doing. There's 12,000 students from more than 400 of the state's 500 schools that participate on trap shooting teams. So it's kind of huge there. And they came out and they said, you know what, we're going to let her do it. It's tasteful. She's just leaning up against a barn wall with her shotgun over her shoulders. It's 100% tasteful, 100% American in every way. And I'm really glad that this is the way that it came out. Tony, what do you think?
I think this is awesome. What really bothers me is everyone accepts this whole, well, we understand with the school shootings and how we have to. No, nobody's posing with a $12,000 over under used for shooting clays is going to be the final thing that makes some kid snap and shoot up his school with an AR-15 or a pistol or anything else. It's all a lie. And The sad part is us as gun people are buying into it going, oh, well, I really understand everyone's concern. No, you don't. It's part of killing the culture and making any gun owner look like a bad guy, no matter how ridiculous it is. But I'm happy she won. And this girl is like on a state level. Like she's on what, the state and national level junior high school teams.
Yeah, she's doing good stuff.
Yeah, she's awesome, and I'm glad it happened like it did.
Josh,
if it's as big as what it says it is there and stuff like that, which is actually really cool that they actually let them do that in schools and stuff like that. I think that's awesome. We have a shooting team here, and they do all kinds of stuff like that. But if it's as big as what it is, what is the difference between taking baseball pictures, taking something with a football or a Leatherman jacket on or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't bat an eye.
And a Speedo if you're a swimmer.
Yeah, we wouldn't bat an eye to a gal that wanted to wear gold medals from running track, or certain things like that. I mean, we wouldn't bat an eye, like Josh said, about a baseball player that wanted to hold a bat. You could beat the living crap out of somebody with a bat.
Yeah.
Yep.
But how's this? They allowed the kids on the archery team to pose with their bows individually.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's good. This one turned out the right way. But Tony, I mean, you said it, man. It is the victim. I don't even know what it is. It's breaking down the gun culture in the United States and making everyone who has a firearm or wants a firearm to be kind of a crazy person.
Yep.
New York firearms transport law is headed to the Supreme Court. This comes to us from CNN.com. Newly solidified conservative majority on the Supreme Court agreed Tuesday to take up a Second Amendment case for the first time since 2010. Generally, when the court agrees to take a case, it's because they plan to overturn, or they think there's a possibility of overturning the circuit court's decision. So this is a provision of the New York City gun law that regulates where licensed handgun owners can take their firearms. The law blocks licensed individuals from removing a handgun from the address listed on the license, except to travel to nearby authorized small arms range shooting clubs. The people that have filed this say that this is ridiculous because that means that they cannot transport the handgun to their second home for self-defense, to an upstate county to participate in a shooting competition, or even across a bridge to a neighboring city for target practice or something like that. Very draconian and crazy laws in New York. Tony, you're very familiar with this kind of stuff. What are your thoughts here?
Well, this year I'm trying to get the diversity shoot going in New York. Last year I went to New York to support the Friends of the NRA there that were under attack by Mom's Demand. They'd organized a protest outside their dinner. So I went there, I met a lot of the people, and we're trying to get this together. And crap like this stands in the way. How can I have a diversity shoot and you hear about it, but you can't travel across county lines to participate with your firearm? It's ridiculous. And again, total attack on the Second Amendment from every direction.
Yeah.
Can't wait for this to get shot down.
Yeah, I have a feeling this one's going to get overturned. I'm not sure what that means for firearms ownership and Second Amendment rights kind of as a whole, but, good on them. Josh's.
Yeah, I hope it gets turned down as well. I mean, you're right. It is an infringement. I mean, in the fact that you can't go anywhere with your firearm. Yeah.
How about the fact that constitutional carry hasn't been passed yet?
The one that's been introduced right now is awful, in my opinion. I'm not even a fan of the one that's been introduced. In fact, I think it's pretty awful and worse than what we have now.
If constitutional carry does happen, I would like for them to keep it on a state level and a federal level. That way you can still have a Tennessee carry or any state that you live in carry.
Yeah, because I mean, if they decide to ban it at a federal level, then it's gone. It's gone for good. Yeah. If they keep it at a federal and a state level, then if they ban it at a federal level, it's still on a state level. Hey, you can still carry within the state of Tennessee or the state of New Jersey or wherever.
I just went on vacation and we went to Hawaii, and I was looking there. I knew that Hawaii was sort of kind of on the same par with California, and as far as like how their gun laws are and stuff like that, and they kind of are. I think they're under the same district and stuff like that too. But anyway, so I was looking at it there, and you can bring firearms there as long as they are for sport. So you can bring shotguns and stuff like that for skeet shooting and that kind of thing. I think you can bring any gun there as long as you get it checked in by the 5th day that you're there, and you cannot carry it. So you can't carry a gun there at all. If you have a pistol or something like that, the ammo has to be separated from it. You can't carry it all together. You can't carry it on you. It's just like those laws are just ridiculous. I don't even know where I was going with that, but the fact that they have those laws is a strict infringement on our rights, and they should be knocked down.
Yep, totally 100% agree. You guys may remember Sheriff Israel from Florida.
Yeah, never heard of her.
Yeah, Parkland. He was the guy that had bred a culture of incompetence, I guess is one way that you could possibly say it. He's been actually removed from his office for his incompetence and his pushing of blame onto other individuals instead of accepting it himself as it should be. And now he has launched a legal defense fund to fight the suspension. I suspect that he will get literally dozens of cents, and it'll be more cents than he has right now. Josh, what do you think?
I hope he doesn't. I hope he loses his job and I hope he never gets it back.
Yeah, I mean, he's lost his job already. I hope that he never gets it back. He's
well, that's what I mean. Yeah, he's not being able to. Yeah, that you know what I mean.
I knew what you meant. He's the worst. I cannot believe the incompetence, and not just the incompetence, but just the moral, despicable behavior that he.
It's somebody you're supposed to be able to look up to. Somebody, as far as police or sheriff or whatever, somebody you're supposed to look up to, and he's just not that. You just don't. Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Josh.
I even hope that they put him on a no hire list at the local grocery store and Chick-fil-A.
Now that's vindictive right there, man.
Yeah.
This guy's almost single-handedly responsible. Or excuse me, he's more responsible than anybody for this Parkland shooting because of the atmosphere of crap officers he put together. Sorry, but going into the school when the shootings happened is something that was figured out right after Columbine. None of his officers did. There was an off-duty cop with no gun and a cop from another department that went in to the shooting while his cop stayed outside. I have to give it to the cop that didn't even have his sidearm. He borrowed the backup gun from the other cop. So he took a gun into a school shooting that he'd never even seen before while these cowards sat outside. And to make it worse, instead of taking responsibility and changing his policy, Sheriff Israel blamed everybody else and changed nothing. So the next week, another shooting could have happened and they would have done the exact same thing.
Yep.
He's a piece of crap.
Yep.
And the sad part is he'll never get what he deserves. He'll never get the shame he deserves. I mean, truthfully, he should be marked with a scarlet letter and people throw freaking tomatoes at him when he walks through town.
Yeah. Could not agree more. So hopefully he doesn't raise any money and his suspension remains. Next story, we got another character here. United Sportsmen of Florida president is endorsing Marion Hammer for the NRA board. So I'm going to come right out and
because she's hot.
Well, okay. So Tony's into bowl cut cat ladies, but that's neither here nor there. And that's a personal attack. And, you know, that delegitimizes my position here. But let me just say this for a second. She thinks that there's no problem with the leadership of the NRA. I think there's a huge problem with the leadership of the NRA. Her, Willis Lee have both come out and said that Wayne is the patriot we need, and Wayne shouldn't pay for the mistakes that they've made, that the NRA has made, and that he shouldn't fall on his sword for what is it? Online curriculum, carry guard, and all these other missteps that he put a person in power, and they've lost millions and millions of dollars. Look, a leader needs to be a leader. We just talked about Sheriff Israel, not a leader, deserved what he got, deserved to fall on his sword and take responsibility for the nonsense that he allowed to occur under his, and I'm using air quotes, leadership.
Yep.
The executive, Chris Cox, Wayne LaPierre. Unfortunately, I'm sorry. I'm not demeaning your accomplishments in the past. I am sure that you had.
What was that again?
They've had a lot of accomplishments in the past. They've done good things. Yeah. They've done bad things. I'm not taking that away from them. But at some point, a leader has to be responsible for the actions of the organization that is in his care, and it is time for them to go. The board of directors has the power to get rid of the executive vice president, but somehow in the NRA, the executive vice president, Wayne LaPierre, actually seems to control the board. And it's for stupidity like this, because Marion Hammer thinks that nothing's wrong. And again, Marion Hammer done a lot of good in Florida. A lot of gun rights are in Florida because of direct action from her. But I'm sorry, it's time for the
red flag laws. Those are in Florida, right?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not going to dismiss the good that the woman has done,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to dismiss the good that NRA has done. But understand, you're being left behind by the times. This is not the 70s. It's not the 80s. It's 2019.
But they've done a lot of bad since then, is my point.
There's been a crap load of bad. I'm not going to throw it all out. NRA ILA helps me out with the diversity shoots. So I can say, hey, thanks for that. But the other stuff that someone else does kind of sucks. And it really needs to change. And we as members have to vote for that change. And when someone's out of touch, as Marion Hammer, Mr. Lee has messaged me personally and wanted to talk to me about running for the board. I read what he wrote, and I'm like, yo, dude, I cannot support you on this because I don't agree with you on this. Anthony Calandro, who runs Gun for Higher Range and is a crazy Second Amendment supporter, I support. Adam Kraut, 100% support. The NRA needs to change, and it seems like the current leadership does not want to let that gravy train go, and it's going to cost us as gun owners and Americans to lose civil rights.
Yeah.
So if we vote this and we vote, say we vote Adam in and a couple other people, how do we get that to change?
Well, this is a long game, unfortunately, my friends. There's 76 board members, and they've changed the rules over the last couple of years to make it even harder for us to get the right board of directors in there. So first off, we need to not vote for people that don't show up to meetings, Marion Hammer. I am not going to vote for Willis Lee. I am sure he is a fantastic American. He is not a person that I trust in the NRA board of directors. He wants, the status quo to continue. I tried to discuss it with him on Facebook. He was a snarky jerk, and it was more important to go decorate cookies. He never revisited. He was just literally an asshole. And I'm sorry, Kenny, but I can't say it any more plainly than that. I will not vote for him. He thinks there's no problem. To answer your question, Josh, it's a long game. It's a long game, and it's the Game of Thrones. You get Adam Kraut in there, and maybe he can do some good. Maybe he can't do some good. But eventually, if we vote the right people in, the right people are going to, it happened with, who is it? Jeff Knox, Neil Knox. I don't, one's the son, one's the dad. But basically, Marion Hammer has even written about this in AmmoLand. And there was kind of a coup that got ran, and that's the one that led to LaPierre being in power. And we have to get rid of board members that think that there's no problem, because there is a problem. They are losing credibility, and they're doing it fast.
with everyone,
And
not just people that aren't gun owners, not just people that aren't NRA members. They're losing credibility with everybody.
I have no. Okay, a lot of people going, hey, the left and anti-gunners are pitting gun owners against the NRA. No, the NRA is doing a great job of doing it themselves.
Yeah,
agreed.
And we're pointing it out. There needs to be a change, but the NRA is not the only game in town, but the NRA is the 700-pound gorilla in the room. Yeah. Join your local, join SAF, join a bunch of different organizations that actually make a difference. And truthfully, the only way we're going to change the NRA is from the inside, not the outside.
Yeah, I agree with that. And if I also may say, there's three key factors to fight for firearms freedom in the United States. We have advocacy, we have lobbying, and we have litigation. Advocacy is up, getting off of our butts, showing up at our state capitals, communicating via postal mail and telephone with our representatives, meetings with our representatives, and us really generally just fighting for it. Then we have lobbying. And unfortunately, NRA is the biggest lobbying organization there is. The ILA does that, and we need that. Because litigation, that's great. GOA is doing litigation, FPC is doing litigation, Second Amendment Foundation is doing litigation. And I've said this, and I've talked to experts in this field, but the bottom line is litigation is what happens when advocacy and lobbying fail. And I'm sorry, there's no other lobbying organization on our side. And, you need to take a look at that because it is important. Without that lobbying, we're going to be litigating. And the best example I can think of is this. In Colorado, July 1st, 2013, a mag ban of anything over 15 rounds, new purchases of anything over 15 rounds went into effect. Tim Knight, Sean Maloney, and some Coloradans led the fight here, and we were actually able to recall the Senate leader, John Morse. We were able to recall another senator as well. They both lost their jobs because of that fight. But guess what? We still have a mag ban in place. It doesn't matter. Once that law gets passed, and what is it now? 5 years later, 6 years later, we still have mag ban in place. Litigation's great. It's been litigated and litigated and litigated. But if you don't lobby ahead of time, if you don't call them out for their poor behavior, then it's all for naught.
Yeah.
Yep.
So anyway, I'm voting for Adam Kraut only. I like Pete Brownell. I think he's a great guy. He doesn't really need my help. I think that he's been an executive on the board. And I think he's a great guy. Right now, I really want Adam Kraut to get in, so he's the only one I'm personally voting for.
If people are NRA members, and tell them how they maybe can vote, just in case they don't know.
So you have to have 5 years of continuous NRA membership or be a life member. And in your magazine this month, January, you will actually get the ballot in there, or it'll be mailed to you if you don't get a magazine. And that's the way to do it. Or you can show up at the NRA annual meetings in Indianapolis this year, and you can vote if you're a member for 30 days or more. You can vote for the 76th member. Suppressor case headed to Supreme Court of the United States could eliminate the NFA or raise the price of a tax stamp. And this is an interesting one. This is a Kansas guy. There's a state law that basically it's kind of interesting, and it talks about preemption and federal laws over state laws, but he believes that the state law preempts the federal law, and that he can buy suppressors off the shelf from a local surplus store. The federal government said nope and arrested him. This case is now going to go to the Supreme Court. Could be very interesting. Could even end up with tax stamps being raised. They haven't been raised since they were put into place. Yeah, so this is an interesting one. It's always kind of a clinch time when something goes to the Supreme Court. Tony, have you read about this? What do you think?
I think that you might as well brace yourself for prices going up. I'd really love it if the Supreme Court shot down the NFA and they'd have to push it through again. That would be the most awesome thing in the world, because maybe that'll wake gun owners up to, hey, we have a chance now to turn a bunch of this crap around. But on the flip side, they'll probably jack the price up through the roof of tax stamps, given the chance, legislators.
Yeah, I agree. Josh's?
The tax stamp for NFA items has been, what, $200 since
$200.
What is it, 1936?
Uh-huh.
So it's not been inflated. at all. The reason that it was $200 in was because to keep poor people from actually owning NFA items, if I'm correct in saying that. So I don't want to see it raised at all, hands down. I mean, because if it was inflated to, modern 2019, no telling how much, it'd probably be $36,000 or whatever, to own an NFA item. I think that we need to repeal the NFA altogether, hands down. I mean,
I agree.
What's the difference in a responsible gun owner owning an NFA item or some thug that, is out in, the ghetto owning, a MAC-10 that he's made an open bolt machine gun. There's no difference, The only thing is we're actually responsible with it. Those items are out there and they're not regulated. Regulate them and let us own them.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Let's get rid of the NFA. I'd be more interested in that than national reciprocity personally.
Yeah.
I think that's where I would like to place my money and support, but who knows?
You travel a lot more than I travel. I don't travel very much, so I mean, I don't know if I pretty much stay out of places I'm not allowed to carry a gun, basically.
Yeah, I mean, this weekend I will be in California teaching a medical class, so I'll be I'll be disarmed pretty much.
Here's how I look at NFA items, and you can see it from shooting with us at the IV-88 shoot. It's the fact of nobody's going to go out and commit a crime with an NFA item. All they're going to do is they're going to go in the backyard, they're going to waste $1,000 for the ammo, and they're going to smile and they're going to go about how their week was.
Yeah, you cut out, but I think I got the gist of it.
Yeah.
Now, let's move into the I'm Offended segment. This will be our last segment for the evening. There's a few stories, and I want to give you guys the chance to figure out which one we want to talk about. So Kamala Harris says that the Second Amendment has no place in our society. IEDs found around police headquarters following the release of body cam footage of Antifa member that police killed. North Carolina reporter opines that the assault weapons ban needs to be reinstated. Engineering students' attempt at smart gun technology is not too smart. And out of those five, actually, which one would you guys prefer to talk about?
I think the police one is pretty cool. I mean, not cool, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
IEDs.
Yeah. Interesting. Tony, you good with that?
Yeah, sure.
All right, cool. So I already read the headline, but this comes to us from The Truth About Guns. You guys have probably seen this. There's a guy had his custody rights stripped away, went to the school to pick up his kid. Officers showed up. Officers tried to remove him from the building. This guy is a firearms instructor. Don't know his credentials, qualifications, or skill level, so I put it in air quotes. And with a local Antifa group, and the officers get him outside. There's a little bit of a scuffle ensues. This man draws a gun. Officers fire, put him down. Later on, at Eugene, Oregon, the police department, a bunch of improvised explosive devices were found planted outside their headquarters. Now, this individual had also said, he had posted somewhere on Facebook that, here we go. Let's see. I'm trying to find it. Dang it. This article so long.
Time to start killing pigs.
There you go. He had posted time to start killing pigs on social media 2 days.
Like more than one or two times. I mean, it was like a lot.
Yeah. They were real deal IDs, and he also had a backpack full of firearms, loaded magazines, etc. So who knows what the police were actually able to stop? Who knows what this guy's plans were? But this is a recipe for disaster. This dude ended up dead. Good for the cops. Josh, what do you think?
I think we need to get these guys, these Antifa guys, out of their mother's basements, get them jobs, and make them outstanding citizens rather than whatever they so call themselves.
Yeah, this
terrorists. That's all they are, is terrorists.
This happened because this guy was the guy's wife could only pick on or could pick the school or whatever that their child could go to. He put it in this certain school. She didn't like that. They came down to argue about it. Police thought it was going to escalate. So they did what they were supposed to do. They tried to get him out of the situation, and he started pulling the whole sovereign citizens thing, like, you don't have jurisdiction over me and all sort of stuff like that. And they were like, look, I run this school, basically. I'm in charge of these people's safety. You got to get out of here. Got pissed off. He got shot in the head. That's what happens. He pulled out a gun on a police officer being stupid. Pulled out a gun, and he got shot. He got what he deserves in the story.
Tony Simon?
I look at this as a horrible freaking thing. Hey, domestics are always dangerous. Understand that. There's a mom there of his kids. She knows which button to push. She knows he'll go the sovereign citizen way and all that other stuff. And it happened. And it's horrible. Thank God the cops came out of it. But I really want to say this. We need to stop dismissing Antifa as a bunch of wusses that live in mom's basement. They have firearms instructors. They make bombs. They are a real threat to the point of, yeah, I would consider them a terroristic group and not harmless. So we as gun owners really need to take it seriously. We make a lot of jokes, but these people are very dangerous.
Yeah, I do
this
agree.
proves.
Guy was wearing a Smash the Patriarchy and Chill shirt. Indeed, sir. Indeed. Well, guys, that'll do it. But before we go, I like to give you guys a chance to talk about kind of what you're up to. And Tony Simon, what's new? What's coming up?
Second is for everyone is what's new. We have our first diversity shoot, February 28th, Gun for Hire Range, Woodland Park. What do we do, you ask? I'll tell you.
Thank you.
What we do is introduce people from every race, gender, sexual orientation, background, political belief to the Second Amendment. We introduce you to gun owners. We introduce you to Second Amendment groups in the state of New Jersey. And we also introduce you to NRA, ILA. We get you shooting. We have the paperwork. If you want to get your own firearms or firearms ID card, that will be available. We have prizes. We have food. Our whole point is to introduce people to the Second Amendment. So if you have a firearm or you're the gun guy at work, you live in Jersey and you just want to take some of the people that talk to you at the water cooler out somewhere, come to one of our events. They're not that expensive. The new date will be up tomorrow on my Facebook page. You can purchase tickets through Eventbrite. Hope to see you there.
I love it, man.
You can check us out on Simon Says Train on Facebook. Second is for everyone on Facebook. Simon Says Train on Instagram. You can donate to Second is for everyone on GoFundMe and join a Patreon if you want to, because it's a lot of fun and it's awesome when we're giving away really cool stuff.
I love it, man. I was like, I was just going to remind you to share where they can find you. You're also on a podcast.
Oh, the Second is for Everyone podcast, and also the Gun and Gear Review podcast on the Firearms Radio Network almost every Tuesday that Chad's not at SHOT Show.
I love it. Tony, I got a question for you. And then on a scale of 1 to 10, how much does the NRA ILA help your mission in New Jersey?
The NRA ILA helps my mission by coming and introducing themselves and what they do. They also donate swag. They donate bags. They donate stuff like that. They help us out at various events. They're our partners. Am I a sellout for the NRA? Can NRA ILA? No. I can say things I don't like. I'm not bought and paid for. But these people have helped, and I won't dismiss that help. And by the way, you forgot to say, I'm the largest pound-for-pound firearm instructor in America. And if you want to purchase one of my shirts, you can go to 1022clothing.us.
I don't even feel comfortable saying that to you because I knew you were going to say it anyway. Tony, it's always a pleasure, my friend. Josh's, what's new? What's happening? What's upcoming?
Man, we got videos coming out the ass. Sorry, Kenny. So basically, we're Black Diamond Guns of Gear on YouTube. You can check us out on YouTube and Instagram, Black Diamond Guns of Gear, Facebook, Black Diamond Guns of Gear. We have a Patreon, patreon.com/Black Diamond Guns of Gear. These are the places that you can support us, Patreon, and well, that's it, really, I guess. Patreon.
Yeah. So seriously, guys, check us out on YouTube, like and subscribe, comment on our videos.
Yeah, comments were the best things happen. We had a video that went from 7,000 views all the way up to like 25,000 views in 3 days because people just commenting on it. So it helps. So that helps out a lot. But man, it's we do new videos every Tuesday. They're called 7/6 Tuesday. This is a cool name, and you should watch it just because of that.
You recently had one that came out. It was like a newscast, and you had like a celebrity from the firearms world in that.
Yeah. We had a couple of people that you may know. Some guy named Sean. I
was actually talking about John Patton.
Yeah. And some guy named John Patton. But yeah, man, the video is awesome. You should go watch it because it's really, really funny.
All right,
John Patton. I love that lady.
Yeah.
John can actually be pretty funny too. I mean, surprisingly.
John's hilarious.
He is. Like, what do you mean, like, can be? Like, John, that's kind of his shtick. That's what he does. Anyway, go check him out. Black Diamond Guns and Gear. The second is for everyone. Tony Simon. Simon Says Train. All that great stuff everywhere. I appreciate you guys more than you can possibly know. I appreciate you listeners more than you could possibly know. If you like the show, please leave us a review on iTunes, Facebook, whatever it is. If you don't like the show, I want to hear about it. I want to know how I can make it better. Look, you're stuck with me for a while, and I want to make it be the show that you want it to be. So if you have a problem with it, let me know. If you like the show, leave us a review. We really appreciate that. Check out the Patriot Patch Company. We love them. PatriotPatch.co, and also Second Call Defense. You know, we talk about a lot of stories of self-defense on this show. And if you are worried about what happens after you pull that trigger, go check it out. firearmsradio.tv/SCD. And as I always say, This Week in Guns is produced by Kenny Ortega and is a production of the Firearms Radio Network. I will see you all next week.